Meu amor, você tá boa? Tá melhor, tá de melhor espírito. Mas iremos. Tem uma coisa no colégio da minha neta, mas eu vou conseguir umas três. Oi, tudo bom? Tudo ótimo. Oi, que bom, tá chegando, hein? Oi, você tá bom? Vamos. Boa tarde. Eu gostaria que as pessoas ocupassem os seus lugares, por favor, para podermos começar o simpósio. Então, hoje, nós temos o prazer de ter a sessão científica da Academia Nacional de Medicina em conjunto com a Académie Nationale de Chirurgie, da França, e a Academia Brasileira de Mastologia. Essa sessão foi organizada pelos acadêmicos José de Jesus Camargo e Maurício Magalhães, juntamente com a presidente, Madame la Présidente Carole Mathelin, désolé, e o presidente Ezio Novais Dias, da Academia Brasileira de Mastologia. Eu vou imediatamente, porque nós já estamos um pouquinho atrasados, eu vou passar a palavra a um dos organizadores desse simpósio, o acadêmico Maurício Magalhães, que organizará a partir de agora os trabalhos. Professor, por favor, acadêmico Maurício Magalhães.
Boa tarde, excelentíssima presidente. Obrigado por essa oportunidade de reunir essas três academias e eu espero que essa seja a primeira de uma série de integrações que nós vamos realizar aqui na academia. E nós temos convidar o Dr. Ezio Novais Dias, que é o presidente da Academia Brasileira de Mastologia, ex-presidente da Sociedade Brasileira, da Sociedade Internacional de Cenologia. Pode sentar, senta lá da presidente. Bom, e nós vamos então começar com a primeira apresentação. Eu queria ressaltar aqui, só antes, presidente, um minuto, que vários representantes da Academia Brasileira de Mastologia estão presentes aqui. Nós temos o professor Gil Facina, que é da Escola Paulista de Medicina, o ex-presidente Carlos Ricardo Chagas, que é aqui do Rio de Janeiro, professor da PUC, o professor Luiz Fernando Amaral, que foi criado nessa casa, né, filho da acadêmica Ana Lídia Pindo Amaral e do acadêmico Beethoven Gomes do Amaral. Beethoven. Então, realmente é um grande prazer. E tem outros aqui, tem o Henrique Salvador, que também é da Academia Brasileira de Mastologia, tem o Roberto Vieira, Luiz Ayrton, vocês não querem sentar ali também, junto com os membros da ABMasto, são todos convidados. Marconi Luna, ex-presidente da Sociedade Brasileira de Mastologia, Roberto Vieira, foi presidente aqui da Sociedade de Mastologia do Rio, da Fundação Oswaldo Cruz, e o Luiz Ayrton, que é de Teresina. Quer dizer, aí a mastologia veio apoiar em peso aqui esse evento, e eu queria agradecer a vocês pela presença e participação, e agradecer a todos os confrades que aqui estão presentes.
Muito bem-vindos, e eu só gostaria de dizer que eu estarei no final do mês que vem em Teresina pelos 50 anos da Academia Piauiense de Medicina. Muito bem-vindos.
Bom, então nós vamos dar início agora. I would like to invite Professor Carole Mathelin de Strasbourg, that will present about the environment factors and development of breast cancer. Professor Carole Mathelin, are you online?
Yes, I am.
Hello,
do you
Carole.
hear me?
How are
Hello.
you?
Hello.
Thank you very much for your participation. Carole Mathelin. She is the head of surgery unit of the Strasbourg University Hospital and the ICANS, Institut de Cancérologie de Strasbourg, Europe. She's a university professor at the Faculty of Medicine of Strasbourg, and she's also contribute to fundamental research programs within the terms of Institute of Genetic, Molecular, and Cellular Biology of Breast Cancer. And she's also in charge of Sénologic Commission of the Collège National de Gynécologie Obstétrique Français, and she's vice president of the National Academy of Surgery and responsible for the feminization of surgery. I think this is a very important topic for we discuss next year in the Academy. And in 2025, she will be the first woman president of the Académie Nationale de Chirurgie de France. Professor Carole, I thank you very much for your participation. It's a great honor. The stage is yours, please.
Thank you very much, Mauricio. And dear professors, dear colleagues, dear Mauricio, first of all, I would like to thank the Brazilian Academy of Medicine for organizing this scientific session in partnership with the Brazilian Society of Mastology and, of course, the French National Academy of Surgery. It's really an honor for us. Moreover, the subject of the session is highly relevant. And before leaving the microphone, a few words to thank you, Mauricio, the member of the National Academy of Medicine of Brazil and the Academy of Mastology for having taken this initiative, but also to express the hope that this session will be the first step in a process of cooperation between our learned societies on practical scientific projects, companionship programs, international congresses for the benefit of our population and our students. And you can count on me, Mauricio, to play an active part in these actions. Thank you.
Thank you. Slide, please.
The French National Academy of Surgery is very honored and grateful for your kind welcome at this meeting, which unites the Brazilian National Academy of Medicine, the Academia of Mastology, and our French Academy of Surgery. I would like to thank warmly my friend, Professor Maurício Magalhães Costa, and many thanks to Professor Camargo and Professor Ezio Novais. My presentation will concern the links between environment and breast cancer. But first of all, I would like to present myself. I am Professor Carole Mathelin. I am professor in a university hospital in Strasbourg. I am a gynecologist. I am president-elect of the International Society of Sénology, and I am the vice president of the French National Academy of Surgery. I work in ICANS that means Institut Cancérologie Strasbourg, Europe. It's a new hospital dedicated to cancer care and prevention, and we perform, of course, breast surgery, breast imaging, nuclear medicine, radiotherapy, chemotherapy, pathology, genetics, and research. And SIS is located in the ICANS. Some words about the French Academy of Surgery. It's a French learned society dedicated to the field of surgery. It is the oldest surgical institution in France, having been founded in 1731 as the Académie Royale of Surgery by Georges Maréchal. President is Olivier Jardet, a French politician, professor, and orthopedic trauma surgeon. October 2024, we have a new member, Professor Maurício Magalhães Costa. Congratulations. Now we will speak about environment impact in breast cancer incidence and mortality. You know these figures, which show breast cancer incidence in the world, and we remark that developed countries have a high level of incidence, and notably Europe is very concerned. And you can notice that rates calculate for a population with the same demographic characteristics. That means the same proportion of the population by age group. Now about mortality rates by breast cancer. We can see that mortality rates are very high in developing countries. And rates are calculated for a population with the same demographic characteristics. That means the same proportion of the population by age group. In more details about incidence rates per worldwide regions, Western Europe is very concerned, and France appears as the first position for incidence in the world. Whereas in diagnosis and treatment of breast cancer, projections of incidence and mortality during the next 25 years show a significant and continuous increase. But first, what does environment mean? The notion of environment covers several domains: lifestyle and behaviors, like physical activity, sedentariness, overweight, cultural, social, and psychosocial influences, like alcohol consumption, tobacco, hormonal treatment, cosmetics, and so on, reproductive life, age at first pregnancy, number of children, breastfeeding, late pregnancies, chemical agents like pesticides, industrial pollutants, metals, PFAS, and physical actions, agents like radiations, light, electromagnetic waves, noise, and so on. So many environmental factors impact breast cancer risk, like estrogen and progestin, radiation, xenoestrogen, late menopause, early puberty, diet, alcohol consumption, lack of exercise, immigration history, prenatal exposure, and so on. Let's take two situations demonstrating the influence of environment on breast cancer risk. The first example is a population migration studies, and the findings show an increasing risk of breast cancers with increasing duration of residence in the host country. Second situation shows the risk of breast cancer incidence due to genetics compared to the risk of breast cancer incidence due to environment. And finally, the part of environment is higher than genetics, as you can see in this slide. The results of my team in Strasbourg, ICANS, concern the impact of endocrine disruptors on breast cancer risk and tumor aggressiveness. Where can we find endocrine disruptors? We can find them in pesticides, we can find them in metals, and in PFAS. Let's have a look at pesticides used in the world. They are now globally stabilized, but at a high level. We have a lot of studies proving the impact of endocrine disruptor on breast cancer risk. For example, we have laboratory experiments in vitro with breast tumoral cells, in vivo with animal studies. We have accidental exposure like Seveso with dioxin, medical exposure with the diethylstilbestrol, and numerous human epidemiological studies with in utero exposure and longitudinal cohorts. Exposed people to endocrine disruptor are the farmers and their family. And for example, in the agricultural health study, when farmers use an insecticide, we observed 20% of increase of the risk of breast cancer. And the risk of breast cancer is correlated with the distance from the place where endocrine disruptors are applied and produced. The study, called NutriNet study, has evaluated the association of organic food consumption on the risk of breast cancer for general population. And this study, the authors have observed the high frequency of consumption of organic food led to a reduction of overall cancer risk, especially postmenopausal breast cancer. And now some words about our study. It's a retrospective and a prospective cohort of operated patients, and all these patients have a long follow-up of several years. We know a lot of risk or protective factors concerning these patients, for example, occupational activities, residence, obesity, pregnancy, and so on. We also know the medication taken by these patients, contraception, hormonal replacement treatment, and so on. We collect during surgery mammary tumor and peritumoral tissues put in a biobank, and we perform the dosages of 578 pesticides, 30 metals, and 4 PFAS. All the surgeries are performed at Acad, the Institut de Cancérologie, Strasbourg, Europe. The operative specimens are analyzed in our University Hospital in Strasbourg by Marie-Pierre Chenard, and since now we have collected more than 1,000 specimens coming from 687 patients. The types of pesticides that we have measured. Most of pesticides are herbicides, insecticides, fungicides, and acaricides. And we have also performed the dosage of 4 PFAS. You can see them here. Complete list of the 578 pesticides. Pesticides in biological matrix with very low detection and quantifications limits. Preliminary results on more than 1,000 mammary tumor samples have identified 40 pesticides that appear to require particular attention concerning breast cancer, notably DDE, dieldrin, Mirex, Chlordane, Heptachlor, and so on. These products are mainly herbicides, insecticides, and acaricides. Persistent and bioaccumulative chemicals, meaning that they can accumulate in the body over time. 4 PFAS, you can see them here, seem to increase the risk of breast cancer. And we have observed that all PFAS are most present in tumors and in peritumoral tissue, and are more common in women who are not overweight or obese. However, it is important to note that our results are preliminary and must be confirmed in the most important series of patients. University Hospital of Limoges in France is our partner for the determination of metals in breast tissue. They have designed, developed, and optimized a protocol dedicated to our study, enabling the determination of 30 metals in breast tissue with very low limits of detection and quantifications. In our study, 6 metals, arsenic, aluminium, mercury, lead, copper, and cadmium, appear to have an impact on hormone-dependent breast tumors. Here, the sources of metal contact. The main preliminary results from more than 1,000 samples from more than 600 patients allow us to draw the following conclusion. Pesticides are more present in peritumoral tissues than in tumor, and the vast majority of pesticides are more present in older, overweight, and obese patients. PFAS are more present in tumors than in peritumoral tissues and are more prevalent in women who are neither overweight nor obese. Metals are more present in tumor tissues than in peritumoral tissue, and metals are more prevalent in women who are neither overweight or obese. And high levels of pesticides and low levels of metals are found in patients with invasive lobular carcinoma. Ongoing study in Strasbourg-Eikens is not finished, and we must answer to the following questions. First, we know which products disseminate in the breast, but what is a cocktail effect? Does addition of different endocrine disruptors cause deleterious effects or neutralizing effects? Second question, what is dose effect? And we have observed the paradox of the toxicity of some low doses. Third, what is the importance of windows of exposure? Is there more vulnerability during pregnancy or hormonal transition periods, during puberty or menopause, for example? And fourth, is there individual vulnerability of patients, for example, genetic mutations? The studies are encouraged by our French Academy of Surgery to determine if reducing exposure to endocrine disruptors like pesticides, metals, PFAS at all ages of life could contribute to decrease the incidence of breast cancer. It would thus be possible to support public health and primary prevention actions, such as modifying the use of certain products, adapting food consumptions, or modifying behavior during periods of vulnerability. Has been declared France-Brazil Year by the presidents of our both countries. Our National Academy of Surgery would be very honored to welcome you in Paris, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Carole. It was a fantastic presentation. Surely we will have a good discussion because we have in our audience here one of the biggest specialists about environment factors and cancer, and he will have opportunity to discuss and even propose. Professor Saldiva will probably propose some new projects for the future. And now I'd like to invite Professor Ezio Novais Dias, that's the president of the Brazilian Academy of Mastology, past president of Sinology International Society, to introduce our friend Alex Mundinger and to say a few words, please.
Obrigado, Maurício. Boa tarde. Gostaria de cumprimentar a presidente da Academia Nacional de Medicina Acadêmica, Eliete Bouskela, em nome dela, cumprimentar todos vocês e agradecer, aproveitar essa oportunidade e agradecer por essa parceria, por essa oportunidade muito importante para a nossa Academia Brasileira de Mastologia. Sem dúvida, Outubro Rosa é muito marcante para todos nós, porque é a maior oportunidade que nós temos em todo o ano de exercer aquilo que a gente deve fazer, informar a população sobre a possibilidade de prevenção, o que a gente faz exatamente no Outubro Rosa. Nós temos a sorte de ter um movimento que realmente se difundiu pelo mundo inteiro. Nós vamos então agora apresentar a próxima apresentação de uma pessoa muito querida minha, um grande amigo, o professor Alexander Mundinger, da Alemanha, que vai falar sobre a incorporação da inteligência artificial no rastreamento do câncer de mama. Antes de dirigir a palavra a ele, eu queria dizer a vocês que o professor Mundinger é ex-presidente da Sociedade Mundial de Mastologia e também da Escola Internacional de Ultrassom da Mama. Ele é professor na Alemanha, na cidade de Osnabrück, na Alemanha. É chefe do departamento de radiologia dessa universidade, chefe da seção de imagem da mama e de procedimentos minimamente invasivos, também no Osnabrück Breast Center. Ele foi presidente da Sociedade Mundial da Escola Internacional de Ultrassom da Mama durante 6 anos e também presidente da Sociedade Mundial de Mastologia, board da qual ele continua participando até hoje. Enfim, é uma pessoa extremamente reconhecida no mundo acadêmico que se refere à mama. Ele é um radiologista de uma formação extremamente sólida, mas que desde 2020 se resolveu se dedicar exclusivamente à mama. Então, a partir de agora, nós vamos ter Alex, a very great pleasure to hear you, to have you here, to see you even by the screen, but it's a very great pleasure always.
Oh, dear Ezio, thank you very much, my dear friend, dear Maurício, dear chairpersons. It's a great pleasure and a great honor to participate in this meeting of 3 very famous societies. And as Ezio said, my topic is incorporation or integration of AI into breast cancer screening. And I hope that my systems work. Here's my disclosure. I'm also an ambassador of the website of Vandenberg, Dance Breast Info. And here's my short outline. I'll give you an intro, focus on concept, results, and finally we end at take-home messages. And first, let us look at screening and AI. There are many hidden figures, also female figures, but the real most important father of AI in the 40s was Alan Turing. And the namer, together with other participants of this Dartmouth workshop of AI, was John McCarthy. And you probably read the newspapers and the television. And this is the Nobel Prize for Physics in 2024. And we see John Hopkins and Geoffrey Hinton. They received this Nobel Prize for groundbreaking research that led finally to the artificial neural networks we are using today in screening and in many other locations. But first, let me define AI and its subtypes. There are many different definitions, and AI is an umbrella term, but it means the simulation of human intelligence by a computer or robot. And this simulation is weak if it's focusing just on specific tasks, and it's strong or general if any intellectual task can be done by the robot or the computer. Machine learning stands for algorithms that are able to analyze data and improving their performance over time, for example, also in image recognition. And finally, neural networks use multiple layers and analyze big data, and they are able solving very complex problems as medical diagnosis, or to find the 3D structure of proteins, which was the topic of the chemistry Nobel Prize. So it's very challenging to compare our intelligence with this intelligence. But what are typical expectations for healthcare transformation? I start generally in medical image. We hope on shorter examination times, to applicate less contrast, and finally, we are aiming at better detection, diagnosis, and better accuracy of our diagnosis. Drug discovery is probably one of the most challenging issues to predict molecular interactions and structures and to develop new drugs and proteins. Genomics are a vast data set for new genetic diseases, insights, and electronic health records are very helpful in extracting insights and transfer decision-making. And finally, in personal treatment, in medicine, we hope on individual tailoring of treatment plans. But let's focus now on artificial neural networks, and the convolution neural networks are a special network that handle images only, and they are programmed to perceive each input as a digital image, and each of these images will be divided to blocks or pixels or kernels and multiplied multiple times for extracting particular features. And finally, every layer comprises image filters that detect characteristic features. And these layers are good for blurring or for edge detection, smoothing the images, erosions. But finally, you only understand the output layer and the input layer. All these processes are somehow hidden for us. Now let's look at the German mammography screening program. The key concept, as always, is the early cancer detection on mammography, and it starts with an invitation. The lady has to give her informed consent. The costs are covered by the health system. Then a digital mammography will be performed, double reading and consensus conference as part of this structure. And finally, an assessment, if necessary, if there's a suspicious finding. And let's have a very short look at the results. I don't want to into the details. The basic message I would to deliver is this screening improved the prognosis because all those changes, smaller cancers, DCIS with a very good prognosis have become more, and those with the poor prognosis have become less. So a big success. The only negative thing, we only have a participation rate of 51%. Now, let's look at such a typical digital mammography image. Do you see anything a real experienced radiologist should see, and also AI sees here an architectural star-like change? And the heat maps after AI calculation and classification are expressed with colors, where deep red is very, very suspicious. Now, let's have a closer look on the concepts of AI in breast cancer screening. What are the current concepts? And we start with the image generation. It should improve the image quality, reduce the radiation dose of digital mammography, and DBT, which stands for Digital Breast Tomosynthesis Systems. Further, it should assist the detection and support of the interpretation of the findings. This is named computer-aided detection or sometimes diagnosis. And finally, it's possible just to assess risk by multiparametric risk assessment, optimize the workflow and reduce the costs. And this is an example for a modern AI application. Previously, it was named a special algorithm. Now it's an AI-powered tomoslice. And I thank Hologic for this image. Here we have a 1 millimeter slice, a 6 millimeter thicker slab, and then we see the algorithm working, and this image has a better contrast. You see more details compared to this. So AI gives you a better presentation of the changes. What can convolutional neural networks provide? So a differentiation between benign and malignant tissues. Further, the localization of suspect lesions within the 3D volume of the breast tissue, then the classification of breast density, the risk assessment, current and future risk, and finally, with newest transformer technology, the use of bilateral and prior images, all above in one, using CNN and transfer learning. Let's go on to the concepts. AI as a standalone system, or a decision support after reading. What is it? The usual concept of screening is you have your examination, 2 human readers read the same image, and if there's any discrepancy, if any suspicious lesion has been found, they go with the image to the consensus conference. And now AI is the second reader. It just substitutes for the human. And then it's a function of computer-aided detection or diagnosis, and the computer addresses negative or positive results as the first human reader, and any suspicious finding goes to the consensus conference. This is AI as a second reader. If we have a second human reader and he is using AI support, it's a different setting because AI suggests a risk score based on density and lesion characteristics, and then such a score gives you a very low or very high probability, and the second reader can make a second opinion and change his mind before sending the image to the consensus conference. This is AI used for decision support. And I would like to illustrate such a typical vendor-specific AI tool. This is an GE healthcare tool, and it's focusing on detection of tomosynthesis or detection of findings in 2D mammography. It analyzes breast density, and this is new. It gives you a risk forecast, a risk evaluation. I'll give you an example. This is a baseline study, and neither AI nor the reader, the human reader, found anything special, no pathologic finding, but the risk score was 13%. And look what happened 2 years later. There was a DCIS developed within these 2 years. And can we understand what this computer read? Very difficult. Only computers can understand computers. This is a citation of Alan Turing. Now, let me focus on the results. What can we expect from AI as a standalone second reader? First, non-inferior cancer detection. Second, non-inferior recall rate. And third, up to 50% fewer readings. That's impressive. And here an example of such a modern AI application as we use in the screening practice in Osnabrück. It was a benign histology, and the reader made a yellow mark, and the AI makes a red mark, and both mark the same lesion. It was benign. The same for this left-hand side. However, the human reader only found one finding. Finally, the histology was benign, and the consequences, A is non-inferior for false positives. This was a false alarm, but not more, not less false positives than 2 human readers. What can we expect from AI used for decision support after human second reading? First, the non-inferior reader performance, then without a reading time longer, sometimes shorter, but most of the time the same than without AI. And I just would like to show you another application. It's the pre-selection of normal cases, and this is also used for triage by AI. And if you look at the algorithm, this algorithm calculates scores. And these scores are based on density and the character of the detected lesions. And if you look here, there's a cutoff, and below this cutoff, you will not find any cancer, and above this cutoff, you will see all the residual cancers. So AI can exclude low-risk cases from digital mammography or DBT, double reading, and this is a great success to reduce the working load if you focus on the negative with maybe a little bit less attention. Here we have an example, white dense breast, and here in the no man's land, there's a little lesion. It was marked by AI, courtesy of Hologic, this image, and if you make a close-up, there's a star-like architectural distortion and a central lesion. So this was a lobular cancer. Some more details on the breast screen Norway with nearly 130,000 digital mammography examinations. And in this trial, there was again a score from 1 to 10, lowest to highest suspicion. And they were able to reduce the screen reading volume by 50%, and this was with a nearly similar identical 0.59, 0.6 compared to 0.61 rate of screen detected cancers after compared to the standard independent double reading. This is a great success. What can we expect from triage? It means double reading for high risk, AI only for low-risk cases, and it was a higher or non-inferior cancer detection rate, a lower or non-inferior recall rate, and finally up to 70% fewer readings. Here again, a cancer case, a DCIS, and the lesion score was 68, and the calcifications are highlighted by AI. I would like now to present you the only randomized controlled prospective trial we have about AI for triage. Double read for high risk, single read for low risk. And this is a so-named MASI trial. And the MASI trial also used the 10-score risk system, and the highest score, 10, was attributed to a double reading, and the scores 1 to 9 to a single reading, and there was a control group with 2 human readers. Let's look at the results. A little higher recall rate. However, more cancers per 1,000 screens, and a false positive rate that was identical. Some more details, also more insight to cancers, and the screen reading workload was reduced by 44.3% using AI. So the authors concluded that AI support was safe. A very important statement. Here you look at my colleague in the screening practice, and he's working with a VARA system, which is very widespread in the German screening, and it defines 2 lists, a normal list, which has a very low pretest probability, approximately score 1 to 5, 1 to 6, and a highly suspicious and indeterminate list. And you have to be very concentrated to find the findings. And here we have such a finding here. And what we get is the site, the clock position, lesion type, and the classification. It was 4A, in this case, by the VARA system. Here are some VARA cases. Both the reader in yellow and AI in red identified the same lesion. It was a DCIS, and here we have an invasive cancer. The reader found it in both plane. The AI just was wrong. Here was definitely no cancer. If you look at the distance to the mammal, this is impossible. So to be very clear, a very experienced reader today is better than AI, but AI is as good as an average reader. So my preliminary conclusions: AI as a standalone system, AI for decision support and for pre-selection of normal and high-risk cases, which is triage, has been safely used for each of these indications in major trials. However, some concern exists expanding these positive experiences to everyday practice without quality control and to dense breasts of the Latin American, Brazilian, African, or Asian women with earlier onset of breast cancer. So now the advantages and disadvantages and a future horizon. What are the benefits? First, the ability of AI to identify very subtle patterns that human clinicians and readers might miss. In particular, breast cancer screening gets a boost from AI. Then the speed and efficiency of AI algorithms for large data sets, data-driven guiding of research, patient care, administration, public health, and the resource optimization in the hospital workflow and patient outcomes. What are the problems? First of all, biases due to data quality, if the quality is poor, and the retrospective design of trials. I only could show you one prospective trial. The trustability and stability of AI on the long term. Will AI get crazy like humans get, or get Alzheimer, forget about everything they learned before? We still don't know. We need long-term trials. The missing integration of AI system with existing workflow and infrastructure is a real current problem, and the rigidity of health administrations against new developments, together with high initial costs for offset and maintenance on the long, on intermediate term, are further barriers to implement AI. So let's talk now on the future in my personal point of view. I think the key concept is just to come from basic trials and research and a productive first use. This is a phase we have today, to a deep incorporation of AI into the screening program, into the width and into the depth. And then we will will see invitations that address AI risk. We will see chatbots that chat very informatively with the ladies. AI will optimize the cost calculations. The modern digital mammography, or DBT, will use a reduced rate of radiation. AI will be used in reading, decision-making, and the consensus conference, and finally, also in the assessment workflow. So this is my future horizons, and here come my take-home messages. First, AI is non-inferior to human readers and will reduce the working load by 50, maybe 50%. Future pathways will focus on risk-adjusted population screening. And third, AI will be deeply incorporated into breast cancer screening programs on the long term. I thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you for your excellent presentation. And we thank you very much.
Great.
Agora nós vamos dando sequência. Alex.
I was muted, sorry.
Alex, thank you very much for your participation. It was really amazing.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
And I'm curious whether all my forecasts will really develop. Probably it will take some more time in Brazil compared to US. And in Germany, I guess we are on a good way. The farthest developed systems are currently in Scandinavia, where AI is integrated in some smaller units.
Thank you, Alex.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
See you.
See you.
Vamos passar então para a próxima apresentação. Nossa confreira Mayra Calef, que é uma zoologista extremamente conhecida no Brasil e fora dele também, fundadora da FEMAMA e membro do Board of Directors da UICC, da União Internacional contra o Câncer. Mayra também vai entrar online. Mayra, está ouvindo a gente?
Já estou aqui, estou ouvindo sim.
Então a palavra é sua. Prazer grande ter você aqui.
Boa tarde a todos. Good afternoon, good evening. I am so pleased and honored to be here with all of you, and I think this is a great achievement to have both academies together. And I love the idea of having Brazil and France for the next year together. So I'm going to tell you something about what the Brazilians, mostly patients, doctors, and stakeholders are doing to improve access to better quality of diagnosis and better quality of treatment as well. And I like very much when Dr. Alexander said that perhaps will take longer in Brazil to have this kind of assessment, but mind you, we have many different Brazils here. We have the private sector Brazil and we have the public sector Brazil. And this inequity, this is lack of access that is so different in the for the two populations at what really raised the need for FEMAMA, that is a federation of NGOs all together working for better quality of care in Brazil. So my next slide, I think you guys have my slides. So I came here to tell you about the importance of institutions and how Brazil was helped to really support breast care from a movement that now is all over Brazil. Next, please. Those are my conflict of interest. There is no conflict for this presentation. Next, please. And I'm going for quickly just to show to our friends that are not so aware of what's going on in Brazil, but some of our statistics, but really briefly. And then I'm going to give you some ideas in what kind of work we have been doing here together. And I do all this work voluntarily, I must declare here. Next. I think that something that the numbers are huge in Brazil too, and over 700,000 new cases in Brazil of cancer, and 10% only in breast cancer. And we have 62% of these patients coming late to diagnosis. And we know from the Clinical Oncology Brazilian Society that almost 800 oncologists, they think that 30% of this late diagnosis is due to late arrival at the system. Next. So why is that? This is really very important for us to see. 75% of our population depend exclusively of our unified health coverage system that we call SUS. And we know that in the last over 20 years, there was a rise of over 100% in cancer deaths in Brazil. This is really, really bad. And it's going to be, as if we continue with that, with no major screening program, no major mechanisms to speed our diagnosis, we will have this problem even rising, and breast cancer will become the first cause of death before 2030 in Brazil. Overpassing is already the first cause of death for women, breast cancer. But cancer as a whole is going to be the first cause of death before 2030. So next, I think this is very important to consider when we're talking about 2 million people population. And for the last, I think almost, let's say more than 10 years now, we could implement, FEMAMA could enforce a law in Brazil that is called 60 days law. The 60-day law now is also written in the Global Breast Cancer Initiative, Pillar 2, from the World Health Organization, that if we can make it at least 70% of the population coming sooner and having diagnosis of stage 1 and 2, we are going to save millions of lives in the world. So I think that we have a law, but over 54% of our women start late, and also they arrive with advanced stages. So the reasons are many. So now, next, we have some states here that they can wait something like 200 days before they start the treatment. So why institutions, supporting institutions are so important here? Next. I think we have, overall to put the cancer and breast cancer, as I'm all in pink today, and we are talking about the Pink October, we're going to put that in the agenda, in the national agenda. This is really very important. Our institutions are covering this, NGOs are covering a lot of work that, hasn't been done in the universe, hasn't been done by the universal health coverage, but also we are trying to advocate for better care. Next. So nowadays, FEMAMA started in 2006, and we're trying to echo what is the voice of our patients and voice of women that are more than half of the population in Brazil at the moment. So you see all the states that we have members, and we are over 70 members installed in every one of those states, and some states are even more than one member of FEMAMA. Next. And these members are very independently, but together we articulate, we connect, we have an action, political action federally in the national, in Brasilia, where our Minister of Health is, and then we go with the same speech, with the same ideas to the states and to cities. So the priorities that we established in 2024 were, we have the right, we need to improve medication access. There is a big, huge gap between what has been provided in the private system and in the public system. We don't have genetic testing yet for these women that depend only on the public health care. We need to amplify, the needs of the oncological patients, because they need special treatment, and this is something that we don't see like throughout their journey. Next. So the connection that I'm saying, that we work as a network. So our work really depends on the work on the ground, but also how we convey messages to the Minister of Health, to the medical societies, and for that, we need to influence political policies, public policies, to promote better care. Next. And this is not only anymore for breast cancer, we're doing for female cancers, but also the 60 days law is for all cancers. That is the maximum time in Brazil as a federal law to start treatment from diagnosis, the date of diagnosis, to first treatment is maximum 60 days. So we communicate with many types of stakeholders, facilitating this dialogue between government and society. Next, we also promote information, good quality information. So I'm not only talking about the 60-day law. We have memory reconstruction, the obliged cancer notification law. Next. And we have more recently, we engage in this thing about the testing, genetic and genomic testing for women in Brazil, because it's all there. Even in the national policy, cancer policy that the Minister of Health supports, and was at the end of last year was published, we really have everything there: navigation, diagnosis, good quality of treatment. But we need to bring these laws from the paper to reality. And this is something that FEMAMA, together with its partners, will do. Next. And I'm going towards the end because I wanted to show that we have participated in many national coalitions, but international coalitions as well. City Cancer Challenge, UICC, I am proud to be a member, and also alliances like ABC Global Alliances and others. Next. And I think that on behalf of FEMAMA, I was nominated as a candidate for UICC. And 10 days ago, I'm proud to say that I was re-elected. And please, fellows, count on me to be there and try to influence policies globally as we do in UICC. Next. And just to show you, because we're talking about Pink October, next, I'm also proud to say that FEMAMA, through public audiences, next, just go quickly now, and you can change, please. Public consultations that go online, and public society, doctors are embracing this cause as their own. And this is really a way of citizens to manifestate their will, that they want better care. They want cancer to be in the agenda. Next. And I just did not prepare all this in English because I didn't know that I was going to speak English with you, but I'm glad to say that we go to do some, we call lobby days. We go all together with the Minister of Health in Brasilia, and we really make a noise, making them to come meet with that. We can see on the lower left, this is the Minister of Health, first woman as a Minister of Health in Brazil, and that guy is one of our FEMAMA's leader for advocacy. Next. Let's do it. We are coming to the Pink October. We also, this is interesting, because we think that politicians know what they should do. They don't. We have to tell them what to do, why to do it, on behalf of the voters that elect them. So this kind of movement is very powerful. Next. And we're going through elections at the moment. We are very worried about all this Google and all this bad quality information that's out there in the social media. So we have the University FEMAMA with many courses, even showing how to be an advocate. Next. And also, I think that I was going to tell you that next, I think that I'm trying to get the slide that I want. Next. And that is the Christ. When we started, next, we started Pink October as organized. I was invited for the White House, and I was honored with Laura Bush to lighten the White House. And I think this was amazing because at the same year, next, we lightened up the Christ for the first time. And this started a movement that now this is not FEMAMA anymore, doesn't belong to anybody. And every shop or shopping centers, buildings, now is all in pink in Brazil. Next. And this is really important because raises the topic of the importance of early diagnosis We need to talk to our women about that. Next, to promote screening. We also have 4 airplanes here that we encourage Azul, one of our biggest airlines in Brazil, to become pink. And that was something that FEMAMA did together with the people from Azul. And during all this month, for a long time, they are already almost 10 years talking about this. Next, during even the flights. And we have these Pink October campaigns that I'm not going to go into details now. And I'm glad to be here among you guys, because I'm very proud to be a breast surgeon and to belong to the Academy, the Society, Brazilian Society of Mastology, and to be friend to Maurício and Ezio. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayra. Muito obrigado. A nossa presidente aqui está encantada aí com a sua participação, o seu trabalho. Então, eu queria agora, nós vamos ter um debate, eu queria convidar o acadêmico Paulo Saldiva para sentar aqui conosco também, Luiz Ayrton, que é acadêmico da Academia Brasileira de Mastologia, de Teresina, que é o atual presidente da FEMAMA, né, Luiz Ayrton?
Eleito.
É? Então, Luiz Ayrton está com essa responsabilidade de suceder e ajudar a Mayra aí. Por favor, Luiz Saldiva.
Eu fico aqui, Maurício.
Sim, fica aí. I would like to invite Professor Saldiva to say a few words, especially to Professor Is Professor Carole online? Are you listeners?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Professor Saldiva is a professor of pathology in São Paulo, of the São Paulo University, and has a big experience with pollution and cancer and many other diseases, not only cancer. And he has many projects in Brazil, and he will say a few words about his work and perhaps talk about future cooperation. Please.
I'll talk here. Okay. It's better to be seen. I'd like to first of all, thanks the Academy and Maurício and all the speakers that precede me, and being in this house that is important in solving all the questions related to the treatment of complex diseases. I could suggest that environment now is known to play a relevant role in the pathogenesis and the onset and the risk of cancers. And lung cancer was the first that was detected, but breast cancer is now being recognized as an endpoint, which is important in terms of risk, increased risk due to several environmental topics. Of course, endocrine disrupting substances are ubiquitous. You inhale them in air pollution, you eat them during using pesticides, and you are exposed in agricultural areas, you drink them in water reservoirs. Low doses, but low risk, relative risk is low, but attributable risk is high, because even a low risk gets important when you have millions or billions of people exposed to them. It's very difficult also to control, because all those activities that deliver the substances are producing important economical impact. They provide jobs, they produce food. So this puzzle is important, and we think that we should first contribute to study the mechanisms of how environmental chemicals are associated with breast cancer. So this is one part of the question, how do things work? And then the second part, how to put these things to work in benefit of population. So science is quite simple. Discovery science and implementation science. And I congratulate the Academy by the participation of equilibrating these questions, this seminar, with these two aspects of science, discovery and implementation. By finishing my talk, or this contribution to the debate, I would suggest two practical aspects that our Academy and Brazil and France could collaborate. One, as we are doing with lung cancer, we can have access. In Brazil, we still have autopsies, and we can do prospective sampling of a retrospective cohort of past exposure and determining not cancer, but pre-neoplastic lesions. I think we could spend this discussion afterwards. How to get exposome as chemically determined in human tissues, and to have non-cancer breasts to study the early phases of cancer development. And the second, I think that France and in general Europe preceded Latin America in terms of demographic changes. But our country has a great expertise in vulnerability, social inequity, and miserability, which, as we saw at the Federation of FEMAMA presentation, is a marker determinant of the outcome of the treatment. The late diagnosis is associated with bad prognosis. This, in global terms, is quite important. And I consider that Brazil has a rare combination of inequity and data. We have excellent data in Nordic countries, but you don't have the contrasts. And India has higher contrasts, but no data. Brazil is in between. We have excellent public data on health, and we can use not artificial intelligence, not only to do the diagnosis, that this could promote enormous advance in early detection using conventional mammography with high precision, as we saw, but also use artificial intelligence to promote artificial compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Artificial, let's say, partnership. So if we complete the cycle of discovery, the question that remains is that we discovered applicable for those that need most, or only those that can pay for it? I think that crosstalk could be a basis for a conceptual study paper to be delivered as a commentary in a good scientific journal. Specifically, I will propose that we work on a project to have that this interesting meeting, to make that this interesting meeting can prosperate and does not end when we turn off the lights. I think this is our responsibility, our duty, and also a window of opportunity, playing to promote more equity and less asymmetry in the new developments that are going very fast and are promising to expedite. And I believe that artificial intelligence and new developments and treatment can accelerate the process of equity. So there is hope. So it's time that we physicians are worth of this challenge and capable to overcome those difficulties. Thank you very much.
Professor Carole, Professor Saldivar has suggested that he has an experience of about 20,000 autopsies per year in his department in São Paulo. And he can do a prospective and even retrospective study, studying all these pollutants, agents, and pre-lesions. I think it is a very good start that we can integrate your work, what you are doing, your research within a Brazilian partnership. I'd like to listen to your opinion about this.
It would be really a great experience, and we would be very interesting to collaborate with Brazil to know a lot of things about pollutants, but also to contribute to study the mechanism of toxicity of different pollutants, pesticides, different endocrine disruptors, and so on. So it would be really a good thing to collaborate, and we fully agree with its proposition.
Thank you very much. Luiz Ayrton, por favor, seus comentários.
Boa noite a todos. I would like to talk to Dr. Carole Mathelin and Alex Mundinger. I think in Brazil, I need to speak in Portuguese. Sorry, but I think it's necessary to speak in português. Eu, inicialmente, gostaria de saudar a nossa presidente aqui, a professora Eliete, e dizer da alegria dela ter confirmado a sua ida, a Teresina, no nosso cinquentenário da Academia Piauiense de Medicina, que trata-se da 4ª Academia Estadual de Medicina. Dizer também que apraz-me muitíssimo e me honra muito estar aqui nesse palco da medicina brasileira, que é a Academia Nacional de Medicina, falando de um tema que realmente torna-se importante em pleno exercício do Outubro Rosa. Agradecer o convite formulado e a organização da Academia Brasileira de Mastologia, na pessoa do Dr. Ezio Dias, presidente da ABMasto, e também do nosso querido acadêmico Maurício Magalhães. Queria saudar aqui, em nome de todos, o Dr. Omar da Rocha Santos, por uma curiosidade. Há 30 anos, ele fez um discurso icônico e iconoclasta em Teresina, que durou 3 horas, e eu nunca esqueci. Também eu adoro discursos longos, principalmente no meio acadêmico. Muito obrigado, eu ainda não esqueci. E saudar o meu amigo Roberto, que está aqui muito bem adequado, vestido numa gravata borboleta na cor pink. De fato, eu gostaria de começar uma reflexão, de certo modo, semântica sobre essa questão do Outubro Rosa, quando nós temos o Pink October e o Outubro Rosa. O pink, que eu posso traduzir como pink, não é a mesma coisa de rosa. Não sei quem traduziu dessa forma, mas, de certa forma, os números os acessos ao tratamento, o sucesso no tratamento nos países que usam pink tem sido bem melhor nos países que usam rosa. Talvez para nós brasileiros, o Outubro Rosa seja mais fonético e mais fácil de ser ouvido, mas ele está embutido numa série de coisas que dificultam a ação da própria medicina ou dos ganhos provenientes, por exemplo, da FEMAMA, que luta nessa causa. Ainda hoje existem grotões brasileiros onde não tem energia, onde não se chega à informação. Mato Grosso, Amazonas, essas informações não chegam. E a informação é fundamental no controle do câncer. Dizer para uma mulher que o exercício físico é mais importante do que uma quimioterapia parece estranho, mas é fundamental imaginar que uma mulher, quando tem câncer de mama, em quem tem práticas de exercício físico, ela diminui a chance da doença em 30%, do retorno da doença. Isso é muito importante. Falar da dieta para essas pessoas, né? Mostrar claramente alguns cuidados em relação à dieta. Nós vivemos num país com alta probabilidade de desenvolver câncer. Não é à toa, quando a Organização Mundial de Saúde prevê que daqui a 8 anos, como já foi dito numa das falas, o câncer será a causa de morte em maior número nas cidades brasileiras, isso é real. 10% das cidades brasileiras, já com quase que 543 delas, já têm o câncer como a principal causa de morte. Então, ele vai ultrapassar as doenças cardíacas. E a pergunta, nós estamos fazendo o Outubro Pink ou devemos continuar fazendo Outubro Rosa? É bem provável que a gente vai pagar um preço muito caro. O uso indiscriminado sobre esses produtos que foram apresentados aqui, principalmente pesticida, agrotóxicos, na fala que nos antecederam, é bom que se lembre alguns outros, como a fumaça. A fumaça é uma forte componente da industrialização e o câncer de mama ocorre exatamente nas regiões desenvolvidas. Seja a poluição dos carros, seja a poluição dos ônibus, talvez até aquela fumacinha do cirurgião, seja o cigarro, seja as queimadas, seja o cigarro eletrônico. Nossa querida professora Margarete Dalcomo tem muito defendido isso. Faz mal do que o cigarro comum. Seja a aprovação da maconha que está iminente, não tenhamos dúvidas, estamos fumaçando o mundo. E isso leva a um risco em relação ao câncer. O uso indiscriminado de plástico se fala muito pouco, mas eu desafio a qualquer brasileiro que pegue uma estrada nesse país, uma estrada limpa, e que pare na estrada e desça para aguar as flores. Nós vamos ver uma infindável quantidade de garrafa PET, canudos, né, copos plásticos, saco de supermercados, deixando claro que estamos entrando na antropocena, o tempo do lixo. Se cada um pegar o seu Google e investigar o que é ilha de plástico, vai ver perfeitamente que está se formando uma ilha de plástico que já dá para caminhar em cima dela. Canudos de plásticos não deveriam existir no nosso país. Talvez um canudo de papelão para algumas pessoas, não para todas. Alimentos queimados é outra coisa que não se educa a população. Um alimento queimado é toxina, não é mais alimento, né? Então você tem uma série de coisas que deveriam ser debatidas com a sociedade, além dos cuidados de acesso, além dos cuidados de tratamento, que é onde focamos no nosso Outubro Rosa. O Outubro Rosa, vitorioso no nosso país, ele leva a pintar todos os meses de cores. Existe agora o Setembro Azul, o Setembro Amarelo, o Janeiro Branco, o Novembro Azul, tudo proveniente da vitória do Outubro Rosa. Que, no fundo, a grande vitória é poder dizer que hoje nós temos brasileiras curadas de câncer de mamas vivas, mas ainda continuamos com o aumento da doença. ainda continuamos com a taxa de mortalidade alta, diferente dos países PINC. A nossa mortalidade, que esse ano é 19 mil mulheres, é alta demais para uma doença que pode ser controlada. Então, a reflexão maior dentro dos fatores ambientais nos leva a isso. Branqueadores de dente nunca estão sendo falados. A morte da velhice. Mataram a velhice, como se a velhice não fosse uma coisa ruim. O símbolo da medicina é um cajado, é uma velhice. E mesmo pouco tempo que a gente tem para debater sobre isso, tudo que nós fazemos para não sermos velhos está ligado ao aumento de câncer. Seja hormônios, seja uma série de produtos que nossas mulheres têm usado, eles estão ligados ao aumento de câncer. Daria 2 horas para a gente comentar sobre esse assunto. Achei inteligentíssima a discussão sobre a IA e o câncer. E acho que era bom a gente lembrar o belo dia que a mamografia chegou na vida dos brasileiros, em que ela dava um diagnóstico de um tumor de 3 milímetros, e que a gente percebeu claramente, pronto, nem precisa mais das nossas mãos, mas medicina é arte, medicina não é só ciência. A IA nunca vai dar um diagnóstico de um câncer. A IA nunca vai saber a diferença no fundo de um corredor se ali é uma mulher ou um travesti. A IA talvez nos ajude muito. Um médico radiologista que esteja vendo a mamografia ao longo de uma clínica que ele examina 200, 300, 500 exames no dia, é natural que ele esteja cansado. Talvez os últimos exames não sejam perfeitos. E a IA tem uma participação enorme em colaborar para isso. Quando um radiologista vê um câncer numa mamografia, ele cega. Ele se dá por feliz e vê quem achou o câncer, mas não conseguiu ver um outro mínimo que estava no cantinho da própria mama. E a IA vai nos ajudar a isso. Então, saudando o nosso Selmo Celeno Porto, as tecnologias devem ser aceitas e devem ser reescrever a medicina de um novo tempo. E isso a gente tem que aprender sempre. Chegou uma tecnologia nova, ela tem que ir para a sala de aula. Há 30 anos sou professor, não dou mais aula como antigamente. Não dou aula mais só o que eu sei para os alunos. Mudou tudo. Eles usam Google, eles usam vídeo, eles usam tudo dentro de sala de aula. E nós, professores, aprendemos com eles, porque nem tudo já chegou na cabeça de cada um. Então, essa relação mudou, esse ensino mudou, e a gente tem que acompanhar toda essa tecnologia. As instituições de apoio estão bem faladas pela FEMAMA. A doutora Mara esqueceu de dizer que a FEMAMA é a maior organização do mundo que congrega ONGs por uma causa só, em que o câncer não é só uma doença que nos entristece, mas que também nos fortalece numa luta uníssono por uma causa que é vencedora. Muito obrigado pela paciência. Eu queria apenas fazer esses comentários do que foi falado aqui.
Muito obrigado, acadêmico Luiz Ayrton, da Academia Brasileira de Mastologia. Sempre enriquece com a sua grande experiência. Então,
convidamos a todos para o nosso chá acadêmico e voltamos às 6 horas. Obrigada.
I would like to thank Alex and Carole for your participation. It was very nice. Thank you, and we'll be in touch. Bye-bye.
Tá aqui.